All right, let's jump right in. We're going to tackle one of the biggest, deepest questions of the human experience. Why do we suffer? It's a question that really connects every single one of us, across all of time. I mean, think about it. From the ancient world right up to today, every one of us has wrestled with this. And look, science is amazing at explaining the how, right? It can tell us all about the neural pathways of pain, the biology of a disease, but it gets kind of quiet when you ask, why? And for that kind of wisdom, well, for that, we have to turn to the great spiritual and philosophical teachers throughout history. Okay, so the goal here isn't to find some single, simple answer. That's not really possible. Instead, we're going to explore this incredible tapestry of insights that these thinkers have offered. And what's really cool is, as you'll see, even though their explanations for why we suffer are totally different, the advice on what to do about it, well, that's where things get surprisingly similar. So let's dive in. Right. So whether we're talking about the sting of a loss, the ache of physical pain, or that kind of deep, nagging existential dread, suffering is it's a fundamental part of being human. No one escapes it. And it's because it's so universal that we're just driven to find some kind of meaning in it all. All right, so let's start our journey in the East. Here, a lot of the great traditions look at suffering in a really different way. It's not seen as some kind of punishment from on high. It's more like a natural condition of existence, governed by these impersonal laws, almost like a puzzle to be solved or a condition to be treated. So the core concept in Buddhism we have to understand is this word, dukkha. Now, you might think that just means suffering, like when you stub your toe, but it's so much broader than that. Dukkha is that subtle background hum of dissatisfaction with life. You know that feeling, that sense that things are just not quite right? That unease that comes from knowing everything is always changing and nothing lasts forever? That's dukkha. And the Buddha laid out this incredibly practical approach to dealing with it called the Four Noble Truths. The best way to think about it is like a visit to the doctor. Seriously. First, the doctor gives you the diagnosis. Yep, life has dukkha, it involves suffering. Second, the doctor tells you the cause. Your suffering comes from craving and clinging to things that are, by their nature, impermanent. Third, you get the prognosis, and it's good news. It is possible to end this suffering. And finally, number 4, you get the prescription. Here's the Eightfold Path. It's basically a roadmap for solving this problem right inside our own minds. And it's really fascinating when you compare this to Hinduism. See, both traditions share these big ideas of karma, this cosmic law of cause and effect, and samsara, the whole cycle of rebirth. But they point to a different root cause of the problem. For Buddhists, the core issue is craving, or tanha, and the goal is nirvana, which literally means to extinguish that flame of craving. For Hindus, on the other hand, the core issue is ignorance, avidya, ignorance of our true divine self. And the goal there is moksha, which means total liberation from that cycle of rebirth. Okay, now let's pivot. We're going to shift from these Eastern perspectives to the Abrahamic traditions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And here, the whole framework just changes dramatically. Suffering isn't seen as just some impersonal law of the universe anymore. No, now it's understood in the context of a personal relationship with a single, all-powerful God. And you can see the different nuances here pretty clearly. In Judaism, you have the famous Book of Job, which really presents suffering as this profound mystery. It just completely challenges the easy answer that suffering is always a punishment for sin. Then, in Christianity, suffering is deeply connected to ideas of original sin and free will. But, and this is key, it's given a redemptive purpose through the sacrifice of Jesus. And in Islam, suffering is often understood as ibtila, a divine trial. It's a test from Allah, designed to gauge your patience and to purify your soul. And this quote from the Apostle Paul just captures that Christian idea of redemptive suffering so perfectly. Suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope. You see? It's not viewed as some random, meaningless tragedy. It's seen as a kind of crucible, something that can forge these incredible virtues, transforming pain into something powerful, perseverance, character, and finally, hope. Okay, let's shift gears one more time. We're moving on to the secular philosophers. Now, for these thinkers, the source of suffering, and more importantly, the solution, isn't found out there in cosmic laws or in some divine plan. Nope. For them, it's all located right here, inside the human mind and the judgments we make. And this quote from the Stoic philosopher Epictetus is really the heart of the matter. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. He's basically saying that the stuff that happens to us, it's neutral. A rainy day is just a rainy day. We're the ones who suffer when we decide to label it bad and get angry about it. The pain, for the Stoics, doesn't come from the event. It comes from our own resistance, from our desperate desire to control things we just can't. And then you have a guy like Friedrich Nietzsche, who takes this idea and just cranks it up to 11. He's not just talking about accepting hardship. No, he's about radically affirming it, embracing it. For Nietzsche, a comfortable, easy life leads to mediocrity. He believed it's adversity, struggle, and, suffering that are the essential ingredients for real greatness. That's how you overcome your limits and create something truly powerful with your life. This idea about the power of our internal response found its most profound and frankly heart-wrenching expression with Viktor Frankl. As a survivor of the Holocaust, he saw firsthand that the key to survival in the concentration camps wasn't necessarily physical strength. It was finding a sense of purpose. He argued that even in the face of the most unimaginable suffering, we always retain one final freedom, the freedom to choose our attitude. And that choice, that ability to find meaning, that's the ultimate key to our resilience. So let's take a step back. We've looked at Eastern diagnoses, Abrahamic tests, and philosophical mindsets. On the surface, man, they seem wildly different, right? But if we look a little closer, something really fascinating starts to emerge. A pattern. Okay, so the diagnoses, they diverge. Big time. The explanations for why we suffer are all over the map. Is it karma? Is it sin? Is it just our own faulty judgments? The great traditions just don't agree on the cause. But, and this is the really crucial insight, the prescriptions converge. They all point to the same cure. So while they totally disagree on the origin of suffering, they start to sound incredibly similar when they talk about the solution. The shared wisdom isn't about figuring out the ultimate why. It's about mastering our response. I mean, just look at these common threads. We're talking about acceptance of what you can't change, detachment from things that don't last, finding meaning and purpose, cultivating virtue, building faith, developing compassion. Whether you call it Buddhist detachment, Stoic acceptance, or the Christian call to build character, it's all pointing in the exact same direction. The crucial point is, no matter the explanation they give for suffering, all these great teachers agree on the path forward, and it's a path of internal transformation. So what this all suggests is that maybe, just maybe, suffering is actually an invitation. It's an invitation to transcend our normal everyday selves. It shatters our complacency, right? It just blows up our illusions of control and our attachment to superficial stuff. And it forces us to look deeper, to grow, and to find a more profound understanding of who we are and what our place is in this world. And this really sums the whole thing up beautifully. Across all these different traditions and thousands of years of wisdom, these teachers reframe suffering not as a curse, but as a difficult, often terrible, yet indispensable teacher. They don't try to explain it away. They tell us to learn from it, that it's not some meaningless curse we just have to put up with, but maybe the most powerful, if difficult, teacher we'll ever have. So that's what we'll leave you with. It's a question to really take with you. If suffering is a teacher, what is it trying to teach you?